Hey everyone, welcome back to Backseat Admiral on Ion Radio. If you guys are in the chat, let me know if the mic and everything is working. It looks like it is, but it's been a while since I've done this, so I just want to make sure everything is working fine. Today is going to be a big day of going over a bunch of things. Life has been so busy recently, I haven't had a chance to do Backseat. I looked at it, it's been almost 2 months now, which is crazy. So I'm going to try to blast through the rest of Season 6 today. So we'll have 4 different matches to talk about, and I think that brings us up to like nearly 10 fleets, which is crazy. Thank you, James, for the audio. Northern Hero, welcome as well. So let's see, what's new with me? Life has just been really busy. This last week was really hectic. My son keeps getting ear infections, so we had an ENT consult on Monday. They had an opening for surgery on Wednesday, so we had surgery to put ear tubes in, so that was stressful. And then on Thursday, I had jury duty, and not only did I get to go to jury, I was selected as a juror, so I had to hear a criminal case. This has been a busy week, which just has been busy last couple of months. So things have been busy, but let's get to Armada. So we're going to talk about episode 7, 8, 9, and then the season finale today. At least that's the hope. And then we're also going to be announcing our giveaway winner for that time period. So yeah, let's get to it. Let me transition over. So the first match we're going to be talking about is Season 6, Episode 7, which is Grievous versus Luminara. And in this fleet, we both ended up doing kind of like a bit of tankiness in the process. So there we go. Let's talk about the Luminara fleet first. So Luminara is on an Acclamator 1 class assault ship. This ship is mainly the fighter pusher. So it has flight controllers, boosted comms, expanded hangar bay, and implacable. So what's nice about this is this ship isn't designed to get into brawling range, which the next ship, the Venator, is designed to do. So if it goes, like if your brawler that's in the opponent's face goes down, you don't lose your commander. So you're not out like tons of points. It kind of like evens the points out among the ships. This ship is very weak compared to the other one, but like it shouldn't necessarily be in direct combat. It should be kind of like almost like a Quasar skirting the side, throwing some dice here and there where it can. The fighter assortment for this is good because with Loom, we're going to be bringing 4 aces only so that we can try to trigger Luminara on all the aces. So expanded hangar bay boops this up to 4 activations, which is the 4 fighters you need. Flight controllers helps you get dominance of the skies. Gar really needs flight controllers to really be successful because most of their ships have like red dice, and then this just superpowers their Jedi fighters. Boosted comms means you can reach over past your other ships to activate them so they don't have to be close to you. And then Implacable is there to help keep the Venator alive. Trading 2 shields off this ship that won't be shot at for 2 shields off a ship that will be shot at is very important. The next ship is a Venator 1 class Star Destroyer. It has local fire control, the Spat title, external racks, and Tranquility. So 2 big things here. I went with a Venator 1 mainly for the fact that it was cheaper, and actually at range throwing 3 red dice is better than throwing 2 blue dice. And then if I'm in that medium range, I'm probably going to be using the Spat anyway, so I feel like the Venator 1 was fine for this. We switch out our Contain for an extra salvo, so then we can like jostle the salvos with Luminara, so we can always have like a salvo ready to go. Tranquility's there, so if I use 1 token, I can just suck up shields all around the ship. And then with doing that, they have to eliminate pretty much all your shields before you can possibly take any damage to the hull. So that's why I'm fine getting rid of a Contain. Also, Implacable on this ship will help keep it alive because you're switching shields around, but then you can also just absorb 2 damage into your Acclamator. Spats are really powerful. And I think this fat is what really changed the game in my favor in this game. And then also external racks, because when you get close, who doesn't want to throw extra black dice? Okay, so let's go to the next ship. I have 2 Delta-class transport frigates with projection experts, and they're literally just here to pass shields. They are the shield passers. You basically can't find a Republic fleet right now that doesn't use... Sorry, I have a little stool here that's in the way. The Pelta with projection experts. It's just so good. It's just so good at passing tokens or passing shields and keeping things alive. Like, it's so cheap. And it, like, what is that? That's like for 51 points, I can keep a ship alive for pretty much the entire game by just passing its shields. For the Squadron Ball, this is the mean Squadron Ball that Loom likes. Actually, really any GAR commander likes. These 4 specifically. You have Anakin, because he can do his splash damage and everything. Ahsoka, who can come in and trigger Anakin with the 2 dice free giveaway. And then Anakin's Adept means he can re-roll it. Axe means he can keep things alive by spending his tokens. Kickback can just move when he's attacking to get into a good spot to lock other squadrons down. And you can even trigger him after Ahsoka, so he can like move, do his attack, move, Ahsoka come in, attack, then he can move somewhere else. It's just really good at it. So let's see. Yep, that's my fleet. Any thoughts or questions? Put it in the comments. I'm going to continue on to Ken's fleet. We'll look at those comments afterwards and then talk about how the match went. Okay, so this is a Providence class Dreadnought with General Grievous, TI-99, and TI-99 is the guy that lets your squadrons counter with 3 or increase their counter by 1, but they have to be activated. So it works well with Grievous because you kind of want your stuff to die anyway, but you could have cheap vultures and as they die, they get a counter. Assault concussion missiles, yuck. Point defense ion cannons to reroll at close range. DBY 827 heavy turbo laser, so you can set your salvos to crits. Link turbo laser towers and the lucid voice. So we totally played lucid voice wrong during this, so I'm gonna have to look at it and mention it specifically. Let me raise this up so you guys can see it. And it never really, came on the channel before. So Lucid Voice, treat your rear hull zones printed battery armament as 3 red dice. So these dice back here will be switched, all 3 of them to red. So because it switches the printed, specifically this works with salvo. So this ship's salvo is then 3 red dice. The battery armament of your left and right hull zone are each increased by 1 black dice and decreased by 1 blue dice. So this blue dice on the side here would disappear and would become black for the ship. We realized this when the game was pretty much done, and we just decided to continue with how we were playing it because it would have changed quite a bit. Every time that Ken rolled that blue dice, it became an accuracy, and then accuracy my brace on the Venator. So if you go back and you watch like all those times I wasn't able to brace and was eating tons of damage, I wouldn't have been eating tons of damage because I would be able to brace it, because that blue dice would then have been a black dice. It would have been more damage, but it wouldn't have been able to then block any of my tokens. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So next ship is a Munificent class Star Frigate with T-Series tactical droids. And they kind of are like the trench effect, but they don't work for concentrate fire. Then he has Battle Droid Reserves. This is another card I've actually used recently too, and I've enjoyed it. It makes it so then you can like super heal, especially when you have like Watam Bor, because you get to flip all your crits with crew face down, and then you can discard them at 1 fewer cost. So instead of putting shields, you can just straight heal your ship. So with like Watam Bor theoretically getting 8, you can heal 4 hull points off in one go with this. Super good. Advanced projectors, so you can move your shields all over the place. Point defense ion cannons, in close, stay alive. Tide of Progress, which before a ship is dealt a face-up damage card, if that ship has a ship trait, you may exhaust this card to discard that damage without resolving its effect. I believe this actually got used in this game. Sometimes every time you have it equipped, you just get crew, of course. But that's why also Battle Droid Reserves is there. Some people also throw on Medical Droid in that slot for the support team. And then you have all crits. So the first crit that you get, if it's crew or ship, you can discard the Medical Droid or do Tide of Progress and you're safe. So, cool. Then he has a hard sell transport with Rune Hakao and parts resupply. I would have preferred this on a different ship because Rune Hakao steals the tokens for himself, doesn't pass them out. So you're passing out engineering, but he kind of needs to pull it, and you don't really necessarily need a bunch of tokens for a hard sell. Last ship is a T-Series tactical droid on a Gazanti with weapons battery tech and heavy ion emplacements, so you can get those crits. Unfortunately for Ken, all of his hits came up as, or his blue dice came up as hits, instead of being able to use the weapons battery tech to convert it over with the accuracies to the crits. So it's one of those things like normally you want hits so you can do damage, but sometimes you just get all hits and no crits or accuracies. Like you build in a contingency plan and then it completely doesn't work. So lastly, 6 Vulture Droids. Those work well with TI. Let's go back to TI. So when those Vulture Droids die, or are attacked, TI can allow them to activate counter with 3, which is almost as good as their normal attack. And then when they die, Grievous triggers them. So, yeah, let's check out if anyone has any comments, and then we'll jump ahead to objectives and how the match went out. Okay, I'm guessing it's love of throwing repair crews and projection experts on a Garpelta. Yeah, you could do repair crews. I've never really thought about that, but isn't repair crews that takes up your entire action of it, so you can't really double dip it? Let me double check that. It's been a while since I've done repair crews. I think back near the beginning of the channel was the last time I really used repair crews, and that was with ISDs. Yeah, so repair crews, so you can either pass shields or do repair crews. So instead of spending engineering points, you may discard 1 damage card from 1 friendly ship at distance 1 to 2. So you can either pass shields or repair. You can't do both by the wording of repair crews. But yeah, actually that would work pretty decently on a hard sell now that I'm thinking about it. Because a hard sell would be able to do that just fine. Just fly it along, pop in engineering. Instead of using your stuff for that, you could repair one of your bigger ships. That would probably work. You could even put like teaks on that, and then you just automatically do it when you want. So lots of food for thought for that. Okay, let's dive back in and check out the objectives. So we have Ken's objectives here: targeting beacons, jamming barrier, and volatile deposits. So when I looked at this, I'm like, targeting beacons, do I want him to be re-rolling all those dice? No. Neither of us have a way to move it, so it'll only be the two points, but I don't want to have him with free rerolls on all of his stuff on top of rerolls, especially looking at Lucid Voice that's going to be hitting me and like getting a guarantee set dice. No, thank you. Or rerolling those Gazanti blue dice attacks, because if Ken was able to re-roll it, he probably would have gotten a crit in on me, and then I would have been HIE'd, and that sounds like no fun. Volatile deposits. All of my ships kind of need to be moving forward, so I wouldn't be able to leave one behind to claim points, so no thank you. So I decided to go with jamming barrier, mainly because it's the least worst option, and I don't know if we've ever actually played jamming barrier on this channel before, so I figured it would be something good to go ahead and check out. So let's now jump into the match itself. So this is the start. This is deployment. I am heavily out deployed because I have less fighters. So Ken gets to pretty much go where he wants. He put a really good jamming barrier down at this angle. And I'll show you that when we get to the next slide. But like it blocks almost all of my attacks and things like that. So I have Peltas on either side. Venator that's going to take the lead. Acclimator following. Ken has a hard cell. Gazanti to the side with his fighters. And then his two big ships are going to be coming in. And there you go. Now look at this silly thing. If you draw the line across right here, I am completely on that side of it. Like just barely. Like even if I were to try to speed up, I would be way too close, double arced. Like this is a good deployment for jamming barrier because it kept Ken from getting shot on this turn. Like I can throw one red dice. Like it just doesn't matter. He spread out his fighters to be in flak range. I have to kind of bite, so I moved my fighters in, and with Anakin and Ahsoka and splashing damage around, I was able to kill off most of his fighters. Then this little Pelta is just getting tag teamed by the Providence and the Munificent. I know I need to get my Venator into single arc, because if I just continue on this trajectory, Ken can just turn into me and double arc me with his Providence, and I want nothing to do with that. So I need to get into his side arc where I can try to double arc him with the Spat. And then this ship is still being protected, I guess. Like, well, yeah, we'll go with protected by the jamming barrier, but like it's not contributing to anything because it can't at long range. The Providence pops, Munificent's weak, but also the Venator's very weak. It has like almost no shields left and just some hull, so it's getting past shields. This hard cell's still in its way. And as we rotate through, I get range away, but then this ship flies in past the jamming barrier, so then my shots are halved against it, which is really good, because otherwise, if this jamming barrier wasn't here, I think I would have been able to kill the Munificent with the firepower I had on the map. So that is it for that game. So the Munificent survived. I killed everything else. Only the Pelta got lost, so this was a big MOV in my favor, but there you have it. I haven't really played jamming barrier very much, so I think Ken did a good job of placing it down, because most of the time I would just be straight up guessing the area or distance to put it, but he did a good job with that because I wouldn't have. I don't have the experience with it. So if you guys have any thoughts or comments on that game, go ahead and let me know. I'm going to get reset and we're going to just keep moving along and check out the next game, episode 8 of the season. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any new comments, so we're going to just keep going. So, here we go. This next match is Riken versus Dodana, and I thought this was going to be a fun one because we're both using the Rebel Providence and using it differently. I think the Rebel Providence is very, very versatile, and it's one of the... It's just a fun ship to use. I also try our new Mandalorian starfighter in the Rebels as well. So let's go ahead and talk about this fleet. So we have a Providence class carrier with General Dodana, Ramus Antilles, Adar Talon, flight controllers, boarding troopers, expanded hangar bay, engine techs, fighter coordination team, and I think we technically played it wrong. I think I treated it as if I had flak guns on this ship. I don't. Was real one of the fleet builders I had like locked it in. I even showed Ken after the fact when someone pointed it out to us. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but I couldn't delete it out. It was really, really weird. I think when you put boarding troopers on it, it made the game confused and like overrode the coding for the builder and locked it out. So I had like 3 offensive retrofits on it, even though you're only allowed to have 2. So this ship's idea is you can use expanded hangar bay to gain fighter superiority with bumping it up to 3 with fighter coordination teams and engine tech. You can move then 3 fighters, then you can engine tech, then you can move 3 fighters again, and you can get like a lot of ground moved with those fighters with fighter coordination teams. So things like bombers and stuff like that work way better because they're able to move like twice their speed, because B-wings and things like that only move 2, and then you can just double up with fighter coordination team to try to get them into position. So that's kind of like what I was trying to do with this. 8R Talon means that first nav you can just use, and then like you can always save like a token Ramus Antilles. So then you can save a token, and then 8R allows you to redo an activation of a fighter, which I forgot pretty much the entire game in this. Then flight controllers pass through the new fighter guy, so like this combo is actually pretty good to activate almost all your squadrons pretty quickly. Okay, so then I have a Nebi escort frigate with flight commander, which allows you to move then do your fighters, which is kind of like what I was planning on doing. So my bombers could move up, and then I can move into range of them and activate my bombers and then try to trigger Cazares. XX9 turbo lasers are here in case damage actually came up as damage for the Nebula to trigger Dodana, but I really needed link turbo laser towers here just for some rerolls. Then I have a GR75 medium transport with Torn Far, so I can reroll all the blue dice. Bomber command center, so I could reroll all my bomber. Almost, I think all of my fighters in this are bomber, so you get some good use out of it. Bright Hope, because I would like to try to stay alive with it. For fighters, I have Fen Rao. This is the first time I was using him. He's new from the Rapid Reinforcements 2-pack, and what he does is after he's done activating, you can then activate 2 generics in range of him as if the ship activated it. So what that means is when I have the Providence activate Fen Rao can pass the Providence activations after he's done to 2 additional fighters. So if I have generic, X-Wings or something like that, he activates them. And on top of that, he passes the flight controller along as well. So you can do with the Providence 3 fighters. So pick 2, then Fen Rao, then you get 2 more. So you're up to 5 fighters with this specific build. And then you can 8R Talon, Fen Rao, if you have more generics, and you can activate him then with a different ship, and then activate 2 more squadrons with them. Like, you can activate almost your entire squadron ball with Fen Rao with like 2 ships that only have like 2 activations, because he just spreads them out so much. He's really good. He is escort. And then we have Biggs, who helps keep escorts alive by passing the damage. Jan Ors, that can keep things alive as well, because she can brace for them. So like Fen Rao you can do tons of damage to him. He has 7 hull, but he only has 1 brace. But Jan can spend her braces on Fen Rao to keep him alive. Biggs can then transfer damage off of him to generic things to keep him alive as well. So it's a good like synergized ball here. Next I have 2 B-Wings. This is marked as a Y-Wing, but it's definitely not a Y-Wing. It's definitely Gold Squadron. And then I have 2 X-Wings. And the B-Wings and the X-Wings are the target for Fen Rao to pass his ability to. Like, if we're early on, I'm passing it to the X-Wings so I can activate the X-Wings with flight controllers to try to gain air superiority. And later on, I can use the B-Wings to, like, use him to relay those activations to the B-Wings so that the B-Wings can punch harder. He also works by passing Yavaris to them. If they don't move, they get Yavaris if Yavaris is the one activating them. So, like, B-Wings become brutal murder machines when you add the Yavaris dice in from not activating, because then they're black, black, blue with Bomber Command and Tauren around. Like, you should be able to do a good amount of damage. Like, the blue dice, you don't really care what it comes up as. Like, a hit or crit is damage, and then an accuracy means you block it, and hopefully, like, your black dice come up with a double or two doubles, and then you can do like 4 damage with an accuracy or 5 damage. Like, they become insane. Really, really good. That is it for those squadrons. Let's move on to Ken's fleet. If you guys have any thoughts or comments about these fleets, go ahead and put them in the comments below. Okay, so again, it's a Providence class carrier, which is the rebel version of the Providence. You have General Riken, Lando Calrissian, Major Durlin, who got a lot of use out of this game, ordnance experts, and hardened bulkheads. So if you look at the Providence, it has 2 dice out of every single arc except its rear, and it has 2 black dice for anti-squadron. So ordnance experts is an amazing card to put on this ship because you're always getting use out of it. Lando helps keep it alive because when you get hit at any range, you can have the opponent reroll dice. And Major Durlin just reduces the total damage by 1, which Ken got a lot of good use out of in this match because I would hit him for like 1 damage, and instead of spending any tokens, he could just exhaust Durlin and remove that damage. His next ship is also a Neb-B. Crazy, right? We almost built like the same kind of ships, but made them a little different. Takes auxiliary shield teams to bump up the shields on the side to help it survive. Link turbo laser towers and salvation, which is disgusting when Ken rolls because it can do like, here's 8 damage on 3 dice or something stupid. He got a lot of good use out of that. Then he has a CR90A. Turbo laser reroute circuits and Janus Light, just kind of your standard. And you can just kind of throw it forward and don't really care because you have Riken that can keep it alive after it dies. Then you have a GR75 medium transport with parts resupply to pass over to the Munificent and the Neb-B, so you can, you know, heal it up and regen its shields to bump the shields up on the side. And then Bright Hope. For fighters, he has Mart Matten in Sato's Hammer, and he's rogue. He didn't use it for the mine effect. I think we were too much in a brawl, and he was first player, so he probably would have landed on the mine instead of me, so I understand why he didn't use it. Corn Horn, which is a really good fighter for doing like sniping with, because, you know, how many other fighters have snipe, and he's rogue. He's really good. He's worth the 22 points. You don't see him very often, but he's very powerful when you see him. Rogue Squadron, that's another squadron that has rogue. So all 3 of these have rogue, so he doesn't really need to worry about commanding them. Then he has 3 E-Wings, and they have snipe, but they have to be commanded. Or you kind of just like lock the squadrons down with your rogues, and then you just sit there behind them with the E-Wing line and you just snipe into it. That's kind of how it happens. Ken was talking about he would probably rather take 1 less E-Wing and switch out his fighters so they were more like a little mini Biggs ball, so then you could like move the Biggs ball in lockdown squadrons and then have the E-Wings from behind shooting in. So that's his thought on how he would change this fleet. And that's it for that. So let's talk about objectives. I think I had the bid here, and I wanted to play my objectives, not Ken's. Mainly because I had all the bombers, and I didn't know what Ken had, and I already knew I was going to be out-deployed and things like that. So I had precision strike, so if he went with bombers, I would chew a lot of points up with bombers and crits and things like that. Because, what's it called? I have Dodonna. Fighter ambush, again, if I could do damage to hulls, I would gain victory points with my fighters. But that would really give Ken an activation deployment. Then superior positions, if I could get behind him, that's a lot of tokens I could generate with that. And Ken decided to go with Fighter Ambush, which was probably the best bet for him. And I should have chosen first player. That's really what this game taught me, is should have gone with my gut, just played first player, played whatever his objectives were, and I think I would have done better, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Where is that? Here it is. So here's the deployment. And I got hardcore out deployed because I can't deploy any of my fighters until the rest of the fleets are deployed. So Ken gets to put his transport down and his fighters, and I have all of my ships already on the table before he's done. Then he gets to finish his ships on the table, and then I drop my fighters. So I was very out deployed. This is the shortcomings of Fighter Ambush. Like, you get severely out deployed. And like, you can already see it. If I move my Providence forward, this one just being at the angle and the side is going to come in and be able to double arc me, which is what is ultimately my undoing for this ship. And if I was first player instead of second player, I would have been able to use my fighters to try to get a deployment disparity gone, so then he didn't have full reign of where my ships were. And then I would be able to activate before him and shoot, because every ship of mine that died was going to have a really good turn if I was first player. We go ahead and see. I start moving my fighters forward. We're kind of engaged in this line here. His Corvette's doing a fast, like, flank maneuver around. Again, Riken means that you can just activate him and not really care. Transport, and these two, the Nebby and the Providence, are both just gunning for my Providence, and my poor little Neb is going to take a while to catch up and have to go over a station, so it's obstructed. So it's pretty much out of the fight for the first couple of turns. Yeah, so then we just start doing the squad battle in the middle. And I start to try to jump over and bomb the CR-90 because I really don't want it to get behind me, because if I don't kill it by the next activation, it just can keep going and survive on whatever damage I did to it, so it needs to die. His Salvation is pounding my Providence. My Providence is double arced, and I'm kind of now locked in with where my ships are, that I can't really do a turn, and the Providence doesn't turn well to begin with as the Rebels. So I'm kind of stuck. And I don't really want to just jump forward, give close range shots, and then land on the fighters, because that would be really bad. So this is just really bad. The whole thing was just really bad. I have now pretty much cleaned up all of Ken's fighters. Took out the CR-90 with the B-Wing, with the bomber reroll, which is always fun. I use, I believe, boarding troopers on the Ken's Providence, but can't do enough damage for him to even spend a single token, which really sucks. And then I went full out bombers and my ship double arcing into the side of his Salvation, and I get like 0 damage. It was like front shot of the Yavaris, no damage. Side shots, no damage. Can't even crack the shields. Then an X-Wing with Yavaris into the rear, nothing. An X-Wing with Yavaris in the rear for nothing. And then I think finally like one thing went through. It was just a miserable rolling sequence. No damage was, not enough damage was done. So I did ink it out with the last of the fighter activations, but it should have died way earlier so I could move on to the Providence, and I wasn't able to, which means that the Providence ends up at the end of the game, I think, surviving with only 2 hull points left. If I didn't have to dedicate all those resources to killing it, which it should have just popped when the X-Wings attacked it, I might have been able to take it down. But this comes back down to, if I could have been first player in this, I would have been able to attack and then move away to help survive instead of just eating damage from every single thing because of Riken. This is where Ken destroys my Providence. As you can see, it's nicely double arced. He gets to go first, zap it, and then move past me, just like that. and I had to try to find a position for my Cazares to only be single arced, and then be able to activate these squadrons if I survived. And it was just really, I just didn't have much maneuvering room. So Ken had to have rolled perfectly to kill me because I had a few hull points left in the shield there and my braces. So the only way he was going to be able to kill me would be like getting 2 accuracies and X amount of damage. And of course he rolled exactly that, killing me straight out. And then none of my fighters had like enough range to move to try to bomb him, so he like barely survived. But if he didn't get those 2 accuracies on the braces, I would have braced it, survived on like 1 health, moved, activated every single one of these bombers into him, and then it's basically me versus his defense tokens that he had left to see if I could kill it, which I almost did without the virus, but it was a close game. So final score, Ken ended up getting the table because he killed all of my ships. He had the Providence in the GR75 left, so with tokens and everything, the game was still very, very close. So 400 versus 329, very close. But I should have been first player. That's the lesson I took away from this, is don't be afraid to be first player. So if you guys have any thoughts or comments on that game, let me know. I will chat with you guys about them. I'm gonna take a quick drink because I've been talking like non-stop now for a good amount of time, and then we'll get back to it when I get the next game up and running. Okay, E-Wings feel a bit expensive. They are. If E-Wings, let me find where the E-Wings are. Give me a sec. There we go. E-Wings for 15 points are practically an X-Wing, but worse. So if you look here, an X-Wing is 3-5-4-1 bomber. Usually it's escort, and they're 13 points, so 2 points cheaper. This one is 4-5-4-1, so the same basic thing. It's a little bit faster than an X-Wing, but it would be then too fast to keep up with the rebel ships. It has snipe, which is a good ability, but it doesn't have escort, so you can't use it in synergy with the other rebel fighters, because like almost all the rebel fighters have like escort, or they do their own thing. So this is practically an X-Wing, just worse at it, and costs more money. So like Biggs can't affect them. If they had escort instead of even bomber, like give them a blue dice or something for shooting. Don't give them bomber, give them escort for 15 points. Check, yes, put them in all my list. I would just bring them all the time, because I really like snipe, especially with like Tauren. Like you're gonna want Tauren anyway if you're playing with like X-Wings escort to reroll, and then snipe with a reroll becomes really good. And if you can put like flight controllers into it, which is hard, or Yavaris even, to bump the snipe up to 4. Like Saber Squadron is one of my favorite squadrons, but that's because of how much it costs. It gets snipe 4, plus you can bump it up with like Howl Runner, flight controllers, and things like that. And then it has swarm, so you can get a reroll on it. With Tauren, you need Tauren, and you need escorts, so Biggs can help keep them alive. And snipe is good, but at the end of the day, you lose at least 1 dice. Yeah, pretty much. Everything I was just saying there. If it didn't have bomber, and it had escort instead, I think you would see E-Wings way more often. Okay, yep. Let's see if I can find the next one. This next battle actually doesn't have a lot to talk about fleets, because Ken and I both brought pretty much the same fleet across our entire side of the table. But there is a lot of like strategy that we can talk about with it. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So this is Ramadi versus Akbar. This was episode 9 of this season. and we'll talk about my fleet first. So people have been asking for, it's been a very long time. I hate to say years, but it's probably been years that people have been asking for this. People wanted to see an Akbar CR90 list played, so I decided to build one. I don't really like MSU. I know I've talked about that before on the channel, but I needed a way to use Akbar, keep the ships alive, and make the punch as deadly as possible. So that's what I came up with. So you have CR90A with Akbar on it. Akbar, if you shoot only from the side, you can add 2 red dice. So that makes the side shot, if you're at long range, 3 red dice, which is as good as shooting double arced a lot of times. I have Intel Officer on it because probably I'm only going to be making 1 shot a turn anyway. And Intel Officer then allows me to knock out tokens, so a lot of small little shots, and deleting tokens along the way is really good. I have Engine Techs because a speed 5 ship is just ridiculously funny, especially if I want to be trying to stay at range and use my side of my CR90. You sneeze at it too hard and the CR90 explodes. So the Engine Tech allows me ability to try to maneuver and stay alive. And for the most part, I don't have any squadrons. I'm never going to try to repair these ships, so I'm only going to be doing ever 2 commands. It's going to be navigate or confire. And because they're command 1, I get to decide on the turn what I'm going to do. So basically, default command is navigate unless I know for sure I'm going to get a good shot, then I confire. Then I have turbo laser reroute circuits so that when I roll those 3 red dice, if one of them's not a die side that I want, I can just flip it over to a crit or a double, usually a double because I'm going with Intel Officer. So why not? And Intel Officer pairs well with that idea as well, even without Akbar, because I roll my dice, I say, hey, I'm going to Intel Officer evade. I'm a small ship, so if you toss an evade, you only get a re-roll or cancel 1 dice. And I switch it to a double, so go ahead and I dare you to do it. Otherwise, you're getting a double plus whatever the other dice are. Really good. So this is the flagship, and it differentiates itself from the other ships because it has Akbar on it. That's it. The next ship is exactly the same, except it has Jaina's Light, so that I can shoot through obstruction and I can shoot through obstacles and things like that. So what makes this ship interesting for this build is if I'm making a line of the CR90s, I can have this on my side of the table shooting through my own CR90 at the opponent, and I don't care because I'm not obstructed. So that was the thought of that, because it's 2 points and it's just amazing. And then I have an additional 3 CR90As, all the same, just like this. So all of them are equipped the same, so I don't really have to think about what I'm doing differently with each one. All I have to remember is this one's a flagship, this one's Jaina's Light, and the rest of them are the exact same. Then I have a GR75 medium transport with Ezra, so if there's something like an obstacle that's causing me a lot of trouble, I can swoosh it away and ignore it, or put it into a position to block to keep one of my ships alive. Slicer tools so that I can move toward the opponent. I don't have any squadrons to command. I'm not passing any tokens with this. You can just worry about the entire time setting, getting into position, slicing away a big ship. And this is important because if you were facing a big ship like a Star Destroyer, you can slice so then they can't do confire. Cool. That's awesome. Because confire on an ISD can pop 2 CR90s at a time. Bright hope to try to keep it alive a little bit longer. That's the concept of the fleet. Try to use Engine Tech to position myself so that I can hit as many arcs into a ship at the same time as possible, and then fire with Akbar, TRCs, confire, and then slip away with Engine Tech so that I can't be shot. At least that's the concept of it. So let's check out Ken's fleet. Ken is on the opposite side of that, and he wants to be obstructed because he is Ramadi, and he has a lot of Architens. So he has an Architens class command cruiser, with General Ramadi with advanced projectors and XI7 turbo lasers. This season, Ken said that he was trying Architens specifically with advanced projectors, and then we'll see the other ship, which slave turrets, which is his, like, I'm just experimenting with a certain type of build, and you can copy paste. You can see it was done a lot in the other episodes that we've already aired on the channel. And for the most part, it works pretty well. Advanced projectors means that you can soak up a bunch of damage, and you can take a shot that's way more powerful against it than normal because you have the two redirects. And then he has XI7 on this ship specifically for the idea that we'll see later when you look at his objectives. Then he has 4 identical Architens class command cruisers with advanced projectors and slave turrets, so he only gets 1 shot, but he gets to add a red dice to it. So with Ramadi and slave turrets and Confire, you're up to 5 red dice out of the side, 3 red dice out of the front with a blue dice. That's why he has the command cruisers, and advanced projectors tries to keep it alive for longer. And then he had enough points that it wasn't really enough points to add a fighter, and it wasn't really enough points to add other things, so he just decided to go with Gazanti generic. After talking about it, he could have done something like put Vader on one of them, Officer Vader, and then put like skilled first officer, so then he could have a reroll with some of his attacks on his ships, but like then he would have like a 20-point bid, and he decided he didn't want to do that. So let's go ahead, and I think that's it. Yeah, so let's talk about objectives. Ken had the bid in here, and he decided to go second, which really surprised me because I was expecting that we were going to be playing, I was going to be second player, because in like an MSU versus MSU type matchup like this, like having first player advantage is huge, especially because like I'm already wanting to kite you with my CR90s, and allowing me first player, as soon as I like kill one of your ships, then I can just first last you every single turn, and then you're never going to be able to shoot my ships ever, and then you have to move in. I shoot your ships a bunch of times, and then I just scoot. So that surprised me, but his objectives were advanced gunnery, asteroid tactics, and navigational hazards. Navigational hazards is if you land on a ship or land on an obstacle, the other player gets points, which while we could play that I have an engine tech, so I'm never going to land on anything, and CR90 movement, so out. And he's probably never going to move or let me move in anything. And then I don't really want the obstacles moving around because I don't want him to cause obstructions because he's Ramadi. And I only get like 1 dice out the side at long range. So if it's obstructed, unless it's Gina's light, then I get 0 dice out the side. And that kind of defeats the purpose of me trying to play the Akbar idea, you know? Asteroid tactics, getting defense tokens back. And it's the same thing, asteroids and things and Exergorths obstructing things. I didn't want to deal with it, so we went with advanced gunnery, which just so happens I have the perfect ship for advanced gunnery with Akbar, which is Jaina's Light, because it can't be obstructed. I can add 2 dice into both attacks now because of Akbar, because I can just shoot out the same side, and I can target the same ship, different hull zone. So if I can line it up, I can double tap into a ship twice with Akbar, which is just crazy good. And this is why Ken's his Ramadi ship has XI7s instead of slave turrets, because then you can put advanced gunnery on that ship and it can shoot twice, and then you really can't redirect. All the other ships, the slave turrets overrides whatever this card says, and this card doesn't work on that. So you would just put it on the command ship. So that is the objectives that we chose, and this is how we set up. So as first player, I just drop this transport down here to just put it there because I don't know where he's going to go. It's off to the side, so I can start a formation in any direction. And then he put his ship here, and then I started on this side, and I kind of just moved my ships forward like this. Ken then put all of his down here, in this corner. And so what my plan was is with these ships here, if Ken started over in this corner, then I can just beeline down the middle and kind of just like circle him up around like a figure eight. If he put all of his ships in the middle, I could go to the far side of the table and then loop around, you know, the edge over where my transport is, and then come down and shoot the entire time. And if he started here, then I can just kind of kite him across the board down toward the other angle. If I were Ken, I would have dropped all of my Architens in the middle, so I could go down the middle and like shoot either side, and then make me like move into him and then cross him, because he could then shoot me as I came in and then as I left. But with this setup, he is now in chasing, and I'm first player. So whatever he might be able to line up a shot at, I just shoot with that ship first, then move, then he has to move, and then I shoot with that next ship and move, and that's really what we see happen here. So my ships all start setting up their side shots, and they all have tokens, and then they all clump together, and as you can see, while he does have some shots, they're like long range or just against one ship, and I'm avoiding as much as I can this ship back here, which is his advanced gunnery flagship, because I don't want to get double tapped into the same hull zone. That's going to kill one of my ships. Jaina's light, see how I could shoot through it and like have it closer to me and shoot through my own ships without being obstructed. It's really good, especially with advanced gunnery. And ships start to pop on Ken's side because I'm able to kite out of the way of them before he can activate. So he shoots at one, injures it, and then I can just move it the next turn first to get it out of the way. And I just continue to kite the ships, and I just am like circling. Like, this is my flagship. It started here, ended up over here, and it's continuing its journey with engine techs all the way around. Like, engine techs CR90s are just disgusting in the way they move. At this point, as you can see, not all my ships have moved, and we decide to just call it because this was not a good game for Ken, and I could tell he wasn't having a good time with it, because when you just get shot at with TRCs and intel officer and you're not even able to shoot back because I stay out of range, it becomes very unfun very, very fast. But this ship, I kill his flagship the next turn because this ship hasn't activated. It can Akbar into it and then land right next to it, so I can get a good Akbar or double arc if I need to, and then I can scoot turn one. This ship hasn't moved yet, so it will move here just out of range of this ship. So when this ship moves, it has to be in range of Akbar. This ship will do the same thing. This is just a transport with one health left. So before these ships move, both of them can shoot into it to eliminate the scatter and blow it up. And then between 3 to 4 Akbar shots into this flagship, even if it is full health with an intel officer, with TRCs, it blows up the next turn. Yeah, I felt like I played the kite game here really, really well. And then on top of it, Ken's dice decided not to show up, and mine went super, super hot. Like, some of the shots I really didn't even need to TRC. I just did it because I could. Like, I was getting doubles and crits naturally, and then like changing accuracies to double hits because it didn't matter, because advanced projectors, if I can't block both of them, you might as well not block anything. And I intel officer off the evade, so like just hit him with as much damage as possible. So that was that game. I still don't like MSU. I find MSU to be stressful, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better at MSU recently. And you can actually see a lot of that, like the fleets that I built for Season 6 and Season 7. I venture into the MSU world quite often, so that I just kind of like push myself forward with fleet building and design and things like that. Okay, let's see if there's any comments. Any shortcomings to this Rebel list? Which Rebel list are you referring to? Because I've covered a lot of Rebel lists so far. Are we talking about the Akbar list, or are we talking about either of the Providence lists? I'm guessing you're talking about the Akbar list, and the shortcomings of the Akbar list is that fighters can chew them alive very, very easily. You have very little anti-squadron flak, and you'll probably be good at killing one large ship on the opponent's side, but you're going to be sacrificing at least probably 2 of your CR90s to do that. And the way I have them equipped, they're actually pretty expensive. So let's see. Let me go back to it and pull it up real fast. Does that have the cost? No. Yeah, because it's actually pretty expensive. So this is 44 points, plus I have 14 points here, plus 8 points here. So I have 22 points of upgrades on each of these ships. So it's almost doubling the cost of whatever the ship is. So with 22 points of upgrades, that brings the ship up to 66 points, which is actually kind of funny. Order 66. So that's like 66 points per ship. So if I lose 2 of them, that's like 100 and what is that? That's 132 points. That's almost as much as whatever large ship I'm killing is going to be. So I need to focus on trading up and then killing something in additionally. In every ship I lose in this battle, I almost can't recover those points. So like if I lose 3 ships, I'm probably losing the game, unless like I table the other person. But like fighters eat me alive. If you guys listen to our podcast that we're part of, the Command Stack, we were just talking about the winner of Nova, Nicola Trenta. He's one of the Chicago locals, and his fighter squadron ball can kill a CR90 by itself every single turn of the game. And I have like what? I have 5. So that means if first turn he doesn't do anything with them, and then he kills one, then he kills one, then he kills one, then he kills one, and he kills one. And like, what do I do about that? This fleet really likes first player so that I can try to shoot and move. But like against things like onagers, they can long range shoot me. I have to try to avoid that arc, and it's hard to avoid an arc with 5 different ships all at the same time if he can position himself and drop it. Especially if he's first player, he does that, and then I'm kind of screwed. This fleet really doesn't like Anakin because they're small little squishy ships, and Anakin's double salvo. Like with Intel Officer, I'll eliminate all of his salvo pretty fast, but like that's a lot of damage that comes back at me, even at long range. Like if I get into medium range, I'm taking 4 dice with guaranteed 2 of it being 1 dice being a double. So I'm taking like 4 damage in like every single salvo attack. Like it just, that's what hurts this fleet. This fleet was really good probably pre-Anakin. Now in the world of onagers and Anakin, like it could be fun to play, but you're gonna get trounced by onagers and Anakin, because Anakin just punishes small ships so much. It would be an interesting game to play, though. But a lot of times Anakin's bidding for first player, so then you would have to play whatever your objectives are. Let me see what my objectives are real fast for this fleet. It is most wanted, capture the VIP, and Solar Corona. Solar Corona could help keep me alive. Most wanted means that I pick one of your ships, then I get to add a red dice to every single attack, which is kind of funny. And then capture the VIP, I just pick a CR90, probably my flagship, and just scoot with that token and score 50 points. But the rest of it just is you chasing me. So those are my objectives that you would have to play if you're Anakin, but Anakin will just speed 3 across, and I have to like choose if I'm shooting you or not. So that is it for that. Let's transition now to the last game, if you guys don't have anything else on that. This was our big game of the season, and we decided to do more of a thematic battle this time around instead of like monster trucks or things like that. So we decided to do the Battle of Scarif. So I had Ken's like, just make all the fleets. So I made all the fleets here, and I try to stay like thematic in the sense of what each side would theoretically have. And we also wanted to get Draven into the mix, and I'll talk about Draven in a second. So I feel like this looks like what would have fought at Scarif. So I have the two ISD ones that, you know, planetary defense, and then I have like a Vader fleet that came in, and I kept it like super generic, like TIE fighters and things like that, and bombers, which is kind of like what you see coming from the station instead of like TIE advances and like all the Imperial aces that are just terrible, and like shuttles. I decided to keep it really simple on the Imperial side, just with that. And then I have a pretty mean looking fighter ball for the Rebels, because that's mainly what you see do damage in the show, or in the movie, is all the fighters. I have a Radis on an MC 75 with some hammerheads. I have Leia's ship tucked up inside of it. I have Draven coming in with the Pelta because it's funny. And then I have some Neb Bs and then some transports. Like, I feel like this is a good feel of what was at the Battle of Scarif. So let's go ahead and we'll check out Draven's fleet first. So this is the first time we've had Draven on the channel. And Draven's really, really hard to use on the channel because of the way we do it. And the like negative play experience that Draven creates, we can't avoid it. Like when you go to a tournament and you bring Draven, you may or may not be able to use him effectively, because basically he hardcore nerfs specifically squadron fleets. So if you don't come up against a squadron fleet, he may not do anything for you, and he's a big point investment for 28 points to do nothing. So when we're on the channel, we know what the fleets are unless we were blind bidding. But if we knew we were blind building because one player was going to be Draven, then the other player already knows that. So it's like that Princess Bride thing. I know that you know that you know that I know that I know that you know type of thing goes on. And then it just becomes kind of not fun, because Draven either completely nerfs the other player's fleet, or the other player builds a fleet that completely nerfs Draven, and then you never actually get a good matchup with him because we already know what we're going to be playing. So it's like really hard to put him into the channel and have an enjoyable game then, because he doesn't make games enjoyable, if that all makes sense, you know? So I decided to use him in this situation, and we'll have two 400 points fleets. And because he only can target one opponent, because that's how task force commanders work and things like that, he could nerf half of what the other person was doing completely. And while that is a bleh experience, but the other fleet still gets to do stuff, you know, like, so we put him in a controlled environment to demonstrate how he uses. So he is on a modified Pelta class assault ship with General Draven, Ramus Antilles, projection experts, and shields to maximum. So my idea with this ship is, with Ramus Antilles, when you do your engineering, you get a token to power up shields to maximum the next turn, and then you can use projection experts and toss shields to your ships that are going to be way closer to the ISDs than comfort level. So that's kind of the idea of the ship. And then like shields to maximum will bring back the shield that you didn't bring back with projection experts, because you got 4 engineering. You move 2 shields with projection experts for 2 points. You have 1 point remaining to regenerate those shields, and then the next turn shields to maximum brings that shield back up, so you can just keep doing it over and over again, on top of the fact that's a fleet-wide ability to, when a ship activates, it gets to add a shield. Ken actually got some pretty good use out of shields to maximum during this game on all of his ships, so I felt pretty good about this little build. Then I have a Neb B class escort frigate with linked turbo laser towers and Salvation, because Salvation's just a brutal title. It can put out a lot of damage. And then linked turbo laser towers, like rerolling your reds is good. And then with 2 blue dice, you can just straight out nuke a fighter off the face of the planet with Link Turbo Laser Towers. Just boom, add some black dice. You can, like, if the blue dice come up as an accuracy against an ace, add black dice in, and then black the scatter, and you can just like kill out an ace pretty much straight out. Okay, and then you have the exact same thing, but with Yavaris, which is the same thing. Yavaris is there to pump up the dice of the fighters when they're bombing, or if they're locked in combat when they're shooting. That was the idea. Then you have GR75 medium transport with Tauren, which will superpower all those blue dice for flak, and then basically all the rebel squadrons are blue dice for attacking. Commsnet to pass a token if you need to, and Bright Hope to keep it alive for a little bit. And then we dive into squadrons. I kind of built the rebel side with a squadrons in mind already, and then divided them up so that they made sense in each fleet to fit. So we start here with Wedge Antilles, who is at the Battle of Scarif, and Big Starlight, who's, again, I believe, at the Battle of Scarif, because, you know, they have to make that spot for Luke because of the fighter blowing up. And Wedge just nukes fighters off the face of the board, because if they've already activated, he gets 2 blue dice, and if you also use Yavaris, then you're up to 7 blue dice. It's one of the highest ways you can get dice in the game. And then also Tauren lets him reroll, so he's really good at eliminating squadrons. He is escort, so he pairs well with then Biggs, who Biggs is, you know, pass the damage around to stay alive. And then I have a YT 2400, because I thought it would look cool if you had like just, you know, some like transport type ships that were coming to the rebels' aid in their time of need over Scarif, and it's rogue, so you didn't have to command it. And then a YT 1300, same thing, just thematics, and then it's escort for Biggs to pass damage to. 3 X-Wings, because we see mainly X-Wings fighting over the Battle of Scarif. And these guys then can keep, they are escorts, so Biggs can keep them alive in a Biggs ball. Really cool. And then 2 Y-Wings, because, you know, you got a photon torpedo and ion torpedo the Star Destroyer somehow. So that's a lot of fighters on that. So the main strength of this fleet, or the rebel side, is fighters, I believe. So that's that fleet. By itself, it's not necessarily a good fleet and not really competitive, because of how many squadrons you have versus how many activations with those squadrons you can do with these ships. And then, like, it's all kind of slow and kind of fragile. So, like, Draven's fleet by itself isn't necessarily good, but paired with the other fleet, it kind of, like, fixes some of each other's problems. That's kind of how I designed it. The next fleet is the Radis fleet, and this is mainly just a thematic Radis fleet. Not necessarily good Radis fleet, it's just thematic. So you have MC-75 Ordnance Cruiser with Radis on it. Ideally, you want to be dropping this with Radis, but I put him on it because it's the command ship. Whale Explosives, so you can get a token back. Ordnance Experts, because you're mainly black dice, so you want to be able to reroll those black dice. Flak Gun, so you can throw your rear at medium range and then reroll both of them with salvo. Reactive Gunneries, so you can resolve the salvo effect with one of your contains, because most of the time you're just absorbing things on shields and contain doesn't do anything. But with Reactive Gunnery, it allows you to use salvo. Ordnance Pods, so you can move and then, you know, flak and things like that. External Racks to add more black dice. Yay. And Profundity, so you can store Leia's ship up inside of it. Lots of fun. To Leia's ship, it's the Tentative 4 CR-90 Corvette A with Leia, because I thought it was funny. And turbo laser reroute circuits. Cool. It's what it is. It just sits inside of Profundity until you need it to come out, and it can do some decent shooting, change some tokens around. Like, you have a lot of token effect control with this, with Leia, and giving tokens out with Tandem 4. Okay, so then we have this ship, which is ideally the ship that Radis is dropping in, because, you know, he's calling it in to hit the Star Destroyer. It's a Hammerhead Corvette torpedo. Ordnance Experts, External Racks, and Garel's Honor. The idea is just to throw it full speed. It gets a shot off. It rams something to give it a crit. maybe something terrible happens to the ISD and it crashes into another one. That's kind of the idea. And then I just have another Hammerhead torpedo corvette, just so I have more ships on the table with ordnance experts and external racks. So if you can see between this fleet and Draven's fleet, I have like almost every single type of rebel ship that would have theoretically been at here. I got Net Bs, I got transports, I got Hammerheads, I got the MC-75, we got Corvette. Like, it's super, super thematic. And then for the rest of the squadrons, we have Hera Syndulla, Nora Wexley, Gold Squadron, and 3 A-Wings. This is kind of, to me, like, Phoenix Squadron. That's why the A-Wings are there. Coming with Hera. And what Hera allows you to do is it allows you to choose 2 squadrons to be rogue. So, like I was saying, the other fleet didn't have enough activations to activate necessarily all of its squadrons efficiently, but Hera allows you to then control your aces better. Nora Wexley allows all of your ships, because almost everything except the A-Wings are bomber, when they start bombing an ISD, you just eat through the shields really fast because of her crit ability. Gold Squadron's there because Gold Squadron is brutal at bombing, and A-Wings can jump around and pin down TIE fighters and things like that. So that's kind of the idea I had with the Rebel fleet. The Rebel fleets have enough ships to hold them on the table long enough, but the fighters can move in, and really the damage for these fleets are the fighters. And they have enough flak that they can kill out fighters quickly with the linked turbo laser towers and the escort frigates. With ordnance pods, you can just plow the flagship straight in ordnance pods and shoot things and things like that. So that was kind of the concept of this fleet. So let's move now into the Imperial side. So this is the Scarif Defense Force, and I decided to just keep it simple. One of my mistakes here is I decided to bring ISD-1s because they're not good, but then I made them apparently, and they're really good. And I did way more damage output with them than I was expecting them to do. So like when I balanced this against like the Rebel fleet, I didn't think that these ships were going to be as good as they were. So that's my bad on that end. So I gave them General Ramadi because I didn't really know which leader to give them. So I decided to just give them there because they're just going to be sitting anyway. Local fire control instead of gunnery teams, because I figured gunnery teaming on the ISDs wouldn't really be fair to a bunch of small rebel ships. Reserved hangar deck to bring back some TIE fighters, because you see just wave after wave of TIE fighter coming out, so I wanted a good amount of TIE fighters. Flak guns, so you can throw your dice longer. SW7, so your accuracies become hits. Spinal armaments, so then you have spinal armaments. And then 7th Fleet, because I kind of wanted just a title for the Star Destroyer. And then the next one's exactly the same, except it doesn't have Ramadi on it. So that's the only 2 ships, so that's it. And then this fleet, the rest of the fleet's just squadrons. So you have Hellrunner, Mauler, Valen, and those are your TIE Fighter aces. So I figured you only see TIE Fighters, so it's fine if we have some aces that are on the TIE Fighter side. To finish off the rest of that fleet, you have 2 TIE Bombers and 5 more TIE Fighters. So there's a lot of TIE Fighters in this list, but they're TIE Fighters. So move in, kill them as fast as possible. The next fleet is Vader's fleet, and this is kind of the Vader that emerges from hyperspace. I've added the 2 Architens in there, and it's kind of like mainly on the theory of like the Thrawn, like how 2 Architens are supposed to escort an ISD, so I decided to just stick with that because I didn't know what else to add, and I just felt it would be really cheap to just fill it out with like really cheap, low cost activation ships like Kazantis and things like that, or bring something like a Gladiator or something else. I figured the Architens would be good enough for filling in what a defense fleet would be. So Darth Vader is sitting on an Imperial 2-class Star Destroyer with Commander Vanto, gunnery teams, hardened bulkheads, because I really, really like the idea of him just emerging from hyperspace and basically ramming ships to oblivion. I really wanted to go with that feel. electronic countermeasures, point defense ion cannons, XI-7 turbo lasers, and Avenger. For some reason, I thought Avenger was the flagship of Vader. As people have pointed out, it is not. I believe it's the other one. Give me a sec. I don't even remember what it is now. It is the Devastator, which would have been fun to play with, but I forgot that it's not Avenger. In my head, it was Avenger, and it was just kind of a card to name the ship, but really wasn't going to get much use. So it's there. This ship was made to not die. And if you look at this ship compared to the other ISD ones, like I could have definitely put point defense ion cannons easily on those other two ISD ones. And I decided not to do that because I wanted them to be very, very weak against squadrons, especially Nora, when Nora comes in to bomb them. I want to be able to melt them, so then it felt like a good story. But I figured Vader should have point defense because he should be able to survive a little bit because he came in and he just cleaned up the Rebel fleet when he jumped in Scarif. So that's why this ship is designed the way it is. I have both types of Architects, and because they're supposed to be escort frigates for an ISD, that's how I made them. I have this one being a command, so it gets the blue out the front. I have expert shield techs, projection experts, and advanced armament, so extra dice out the side. You have Vader to reroll. Projection experts, it can then pass shields over to the ISD. The second one is a light cruiser. It is expert shield techs, enhanced armament, and hand of justice. And hand of justice allows you to refresh tokens on the ISD. So these two here are just here to help protect an ISD, keep it alive, pass it some shields, take some fire from it, and do some supporting fire. For the rest of the fleet, it has 2 TIE bombers and 4 TIE fighters, and technically that's what like an ISD holds. It holds a total of 6 squadrons. Usually it's 4 TIE fighter squadrons and 2 TIE bomber squadrons. Eventually it turns into, I believe, 2 TIE fighters, 2 TIE interceptors, and 2 TIE bomber squadrons. But this is before New Hope, so or right at there. So this is the squadron complement that it's carrying. So that is the fighter complement for everything. Let me go back to, where is it? This. And we can look at it. Ken had to pull his fleet, so that's why the fighters look differently. So we can get a combined. I totally forgot about it and had all the ships away already and already had pulled out for like the next few games. So the Empire here is got more large ships holding it down. The Rebels, though, have way more stronger fighters. So the idea here is the Rebel player has to try to eliminate the Imperial TIE fighters as fast as possible so their bombers can get in on the ISDs and then focus fire it down with like the Nebs. That's kind of the plan. So when we were looking at these two fleets and having to decide which of us should play which fleet, Ken and I agreed that I would play the Empire, he would play the Rebels, because we thought that if I were to play the Rebels and them being like really fighter centric, that would give me a huge advantage, because I literally designed it to be just fighter play, and I'm a better fighter player than Ken. But then what we didn't realize is I actually made the ISDs way stronger than I thought I did, and that Ken's anti-squadron dice decided not to show up and not do anything, which made it then very lopsided when the TIE fighters killed all the Rebels. So let's go ahead and look at this game. We decided to play Station Assault, which is cool because we have this nice Scarif shield gate map, and the stations kind of go right on top of it, so you feel like you're fighting over the station. My hard choice in deployment was where to put Vader. I originally wanted to put Vader here to like swing through these asteroid areas into the middle and across, but all these bombers here and stuff, I didn't want to just kill Vader just for nothing. So I put him over here, and then the MC-75, and it had a duel. Ken's fighters and stuff moved up the middle, but from where we are, it took him one turn too long, we think, to engage, because there was this turn. You'll see it. All my fighters start disappearing like immediately. Like Ken's fighters actually are engaged with me, and then all my fighters disappear. And it happened like one turn too late to actually really affect the squadron. So after turn one, we deploy the garrison and the fighters. They're all moving forward to protect. As you can see, all of these fighters are just out of range of hitting anything. It is turn one, but they're just a little bit out. This duel is going to happen. This Pelta is just cruising the back line, and then you see everything is dropped. Gorell's Honor came out and then immediately died. Leia's ship is here, but gunnery teams on an ISD-2 is just powerful. Squadrons are engaging, but like I'm pinning Ken down with like bombers and just a TIE fighter here and there, while I was able to keep Mithril, Valen, and Howlrunner back here behind the line. So I would just kind of like, I would jump Howlrunner from side to side. So I would attack with all of the squadrons on one side and not Howlrunner. And then I would take Howlrunner and move Howlrunner to the other side. And then I would get as much extra dice as I possibly could with it. And then can pin down fighters. But I was eating through fighters way faster than he was, because he would roll like Wedge, I think one time rolled like 6 dice in on me and did 1 damage against a TIE fighter. It should have just completely cleaned out a TIE fighter. Dice really were not on Ken's side for fighter battles. Against the station, though, that's something else. I think he rolled something like crazy, like 9 damage or something like that with his Salvation against the station to try to take out the station. And we just... ISD cleaned up this side. An Arc-10 went down. A lot of Ken's ships went down. Fighters are exploding. And this is when Ken finally got control, like when the transport jumped into it, and with Torin and then everywhere, got control of what was the squadron game. Like you can see, I have very few squadrons left, and it's mainly just Ken's squadrons. That's a really blurry picture. But this is all like Ken's squadrons just surviving, and this is where we called it. Ken killed both of the stations. I killed most of the fleet, but the rebel plans on the Pelta were here, and they were able to escape with it. So if you look here, Radis was completely destroyed, as what happened at Scarif. Arc-10s, all the fighters for Darth Vader were gone. And then for this ship, the Pelta survived, Wedge, Biggs, and the YT-1300 survived. All the other squadrons died. Rom's ISDs were pretty much fine. And Howlrunner, Mauler, and 2 TIE fighters survived. So Ken almost took out all of the squadrons. And he was able to grab the stolen plans and escape with the Pelta. So that is that big match. It was a lot of fun. It took a long time because we had so many fighters, both of us, in both of our fleets, that it took a very long time to actually play and record the game because there was just so many fighters moving around. But it was a lot of fun. Every time you do something like this, you learn something. And for me, it was learning that just because ISD-1s aren't good ships, still they're ISDs. And what I thought was just putting like fun upgrades on them made them actually killing machines. I realized that the one shot I made, and I'm like, and then I gather my dice, and it's like 3 reds plus a ROM plus a spinal plus 2 blues, and then I realized I was shooting out the front of an ISD-1 with a Simoon. Cool. That's not what I expected. Ken and I also were talking. He Dravened Vader's fleet, which I was kind of surprised by because I really don't need dials for Vader's fleet to function. I just need tokens. I think if he were to have Dravened against the ISD ROM fleet, it would have changed things and given him a little bit of an advantage for like 2 turns for squadrons. But if he did that early, those were the 2 turns that he really wasn't in engagement range, so it would have almost played out the same way until like later on when he started eating my squadrons, and then he would have been able to cancel them. So I think still Dravening the ISD-1 fleet would have been better and just double squadron it, because I would have been able to, instead of activating 8 squadrons in a turn, for 1 turn I would have been able to activate 1 with the token, and then the next turn 1. So that would have brought 16 squadron activations down to like 2, which would have had a lot of effect. But then his dice, he would have moved in and he would have shot me like he did, not done damage, and then I would have just done damage back in the squadron phase instead of the active phase. But then I wouldn't have been able to jostle on the stations and things like that. So that's where we think the biggest change in the way the game would have worked would have happened. I was actually surprised that he didn't just ram the MC-75 straight down the middle. That's kind of what I was expecting him to do, and then he kind of skirted the side with it. So we both really enjoyed the game. We hope you guys enjoyed the game, because it was a lot of fun to make. Okay, so I'm starting to lose my voice, so let's wrap this up. We have our winner for the episodes 7, 8, 9, 10 giveaway for Summa play kit. So you get all the tokens and everything for 1 player. So let's go ahead and announce that. To enter this, you just had to comment and be a subscriber on any one of those videos. Every comment give you an entry. So our winner is, I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize, Astra Haas. And the @ is Kalem Krakchny. So go ahead and reach out to us. Ken's probably going to be reaching out to you as well, and we'll get you that that prize. So congratulations. Thanks for watching our channel and commenting and being a subscriber. So we greatly appreciate that. So I'm going to leave that up for a few minutes so you guys can check it out. So big congratulations over to that person. Coming up on Ion Radio, we got the start of season 7 going. Ken and I are already in the process of filming it. We're excited. At the end of season 7, we both will have played every single commander on the channel, and that's been a goal for us now with the season 7, 4 seasons, because of how many commanders and how many episodes we do a season. So, we're excited, because then anyone that's new to the game or old to the game and wondering what a fleet with X commander looks like, you can have my opinion of it and Ken's opinion of it and see both of those games played. So we're very excited for that. Let's see what else. Ken's starting his own project that he'll be announcing later on. We're excited for that. We think you guys will really enjoy that project he's working on. Time has become our biggest enemy for the channel. Work and family and life in general makes it very difficult for us to film and to edit. So if you've noticed, like, we've changed the way we're filming things recently, and that's an experiment to see if we can cut down on time of recording and cut down on time of editing. We think it works. We need a couple more episodes to really be able to tell, because before I knew roughly how long it would take me to edit a video, but I wasn't like, stopwatching it. So now I have like stopwatch data of how long it takes me to edit some episodes, so that we can really compare, because we're trying to lock down how's the most efficient way we can present to you guys an episode, the fastest way we can edit it with still getting good shots, the fastest way to record it with getting good shots. So like, we're trying to produce the best content we can, but now we're also needing to do it as quickly as possible, because life is busy. But I think everyone's life's busy. It's just, we still want to be able to do that. So I think that's about it for us right now. If you guys haven't checked it out, Ken has his latest new Ken Ross, when he pretends to be Bob Ross and paints some happy little ships. So you should check that out. We have some new command stack. For command stack, Ryan has really been wanting to do like what he calls mini pods instead of like a whole big tournament. Just choose a store tournament, and like, instead of getting of us all there, maybe 2, maybe 3 of us, because life's busy for all of us, to record a quick episode of that and get that out there so we can check out some store championships and things like that. So that's been going well. We're still in the process of making it so then the video adaptation of that, if Ken and I aren't there to capture the video, is still good. So we're working on that. So I think that about wraps it up. We've been going now for an hour and a half. I tried to speed through as many of those fleets as possible. Again, if you guys ever have any comments or questions you would like to send to us, you can put it in the comments of any video and we'll check them out, or you can hit us up on Discord. You can find us there and you can just tag us and ask us any questions that you want there. So that's about it. So thank you very much for being with me this morning. Hope you guys have a great week coming up. Until next time, I'm John. You've been watching the Backseat Admiral, and this has been Ion Radio.